Siemaneczko moi drodzy, witam was w 7. odcinku z gry Vampyr. I jesteśmy w Whitechapel. Musimy znaleźć Dariusa Petrescu i porozmawiać z nim. Także jaki jest plan na dzisiejszy odcinek? Zapraszam was serdecznie do oglądania i oczywiście jeżeli wam się coś podoba lub nie, to piszcie w komentarzach, stawiajcie łapeczkę w górę i lecimy z tematem. Kto to mi tu gada? Gościu, a kim ty jesteś? Kim ty jesteś?
I don't even know if he meant to miss.
If you've been hurt, I can help you. I'm a doctor.
Name's Albert. Remember it. Now bugger off.
Okay.
What happened? Did you really steal that man's medication?
Hey, I didn't do anything. It ain't me.
All right. Perhaps the poor drunk just confused you with someone else.
Shut off, mister. You ain't got no clue what's going on here. Bastard was a soldier in the war, so now he's got the right to shoot me.
It's true. I'm not familiar with this part of town.
Benjamin Balmer.
Perhaps you could help me.
Okay.
I said sod off. Go find yourself another guide.
I found the recruiter you were expecting. He's dead, but he carried a note. The Wet Boot Boys have accepted your application.
I knew it! I told you I was tough enough. I'll be free soon.
You're being manipulated by these criminals. What's worse is that you're clever enough to know better.
You're all fancy words, none of which concern me. Go worry about someone else. I'm fine and I've a future here.
Noż ty kurde. Śledztwo zakończone sukcesem. Tu już nic więcej nie mogę
Do
zapytać.
you
O
know
właśnie.
Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? If you know anything about her, I'd appreciate it.
Never heard of her. She's pretty, I'll keep an eye out.
Tak, to wszystko? Wszystko, dobra.
Goodbye, young
Już tam pogadaliśmy z chłoptasiem.
Die in some piss-stinking alley reeking worse than a week old lavvy.
Benjamin Palmer. Albert Palmer. O, proszę. Braciszkowie mi się tu trafili. Okej, jesteśmy już blisko miejsca docelowego. On tu w śmietnikach szuka.
What? Shooting a boy in the middle of the street. Not the best thing to do, wouldn't you say?
What? You saw what happened? Who are you?
I'm Dr. Reed.
Ej, dobra kamera,
I'd like
lubię
to
jak
ask
w ogóle
you
mnie nie
a few
widać.
questions, if you promise me
O,
to
sorry,
send
widać mój kinol.
No. Look, I'm not a violent man. I'm Benjamin Palmer, doctor. And no one can help me. Not even you.
Okej. Poznać więcej szczegółów, badań lekarskich. Jakość krwi. On na migrenę cierpi. No dobra.
What can you tell me about this place?
Nothing to say, really. This is where I used to live, and this is where I live now.
You don't have anywhere to go. No family that would welcome you.
Not since the death of my wife, Albert's mother. She was sick, you see. Long before the flu and all this shit.
You mean you used to have a better life?
Yeah, I had a wife, a home, and a job. I even used to have a name. Now I'm just Ben. Ben the Tramp.
Ben Włóczęga.
Perhaps you could focus for a moment and tell me your troubles.
I'm sick, broke, and my son just stole my pills. Everything's coming up roses.
Okej.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? Have you heard anything?
It's funny, I've been searching for her too. I need some pills. But the woman is a phantom, if you ask me.
Really? And why is that?
Word is she ain't real. She's a cover for some doctor who runs an illegal dispensary for migrants.
No proszę.
A
Dobra,
gun,
pogadałem.
alcohol and a bad temper make a terrible cocktail, sir. Goodbye for now.
As long as you have the money.
Dobra, z nią gadałem już wczoraj. Znaczy wczoraj. Nagrywałem odcinek.
When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again.
Dobra, 20 metrów. Jesteśmy na miejscu. Te drzwi jakie namalowane, nie?
What?
you want? Leave me alone.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I'm looking for Nurse Dorothy Crane.
There is no Dorothy Crane here. Now goodbye.
I'm afraid this medical leaflet says the opposite, sir.
Really? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to close this door right now.
Kurde,
Go
całe
bother
okulary w
someone
kocich
else,
kłakach,
Mr.
no.
Doctor.
To enter that house, I must discover who this man really is. Maybe I could start by observing what he's up to.
Zapalenie skrzeli, 40% do jakości krwi. Okej, to jest ten, tak? Taryca Petresku, dobra. O ci... Czy mnóstwo osób jest tu do poznania. No dobra, da się tu wejść?
Nobody at home.
No to skąd ja mam wiedzieć, gdzie on poszedł? O. Może jest tu jakieś tylnie wejście? A może nie ma. A może jednak z drugiej strony jakbym podszedł? O proszę. Są już tutaj znajomi. Że tu wejść nie mogę. Gdzie tu mogę wejść? Przyjrzyj się działaniom mieszkańca.
There's nobody here.
Ale gdzie on poszedł?
When science fails you, this elixir will give...
Chyba, że muszę pogadać na jego temat.
My dear colleague.
Goodbye, Miss Swan.
Dobra, Narkeja. Może jakoś to obejdę. To kurde, ja to nie widzę możliwości dziś. Wyjście też nie da. Ja słyszę ciągle gdzieś jakieś dziecko płaczące. Gdzie ono kurde jest? Widzisz? Kurde, nie wiem gdzie ja to słyszę. No to kto to? Siema.
Welcome, sir. Please take a browse of my wares.
Wygląda jak kolejny brat tej dwójki.
I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Doctor? Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis. Usually I don't have time to waste with talk, but at this hour of the night I can hardly refuse.
Dobra.
How is business around here?
Business? I have no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once...
Joe Peterson, to pewnie będzie głowa tego
as a
gangu.
merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
Well, you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember...
Violence is increasing in the borough.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me. Came out of one of the condemned workshops. Fever. Madness. Something like that.
Where did this happen? Why did you go there?
In the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged, though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you.
Lunatycy to raczej nie
Not
byli,
even
kolego.
speak anymore, just screaming.
Okej.
Have you heard of a nurse called...
Nurse Crane. So the bitch really is a nurse then? Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
So she's trying to help her fellow immigrants. Why would that make her a villain?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craniu. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious Nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
Okej. Troszkę dowiedzieliśmy na jej temat. Czemu tu mam jeszcze podświetlone? Gadałem, dobijmy targu. Dobra, co on tu ma na sprzedaż?
Show me what you have.
Okej. Czyli wszystkie te produkty. To równie dobrze mogę wszędzie to kupić. A ty, tylko to jest? Joe Patterson. Co jest? Gościu, nie wiedziałem, że ty jesteś dosłownie obok.
Excuse me, sir. I have a few questions for you.
Another journalist? I didn't answer
Gryzi
the first
piórek?
one.
Co ty,
Piss
kurde?
off.
I'm not a journalist, I'm a doctor.
A doctor, you say? It's quite a rare breed in this part of town.
Really? But still, here I am. Dr. Jonathan Reed, at your service.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, but Colossus Joe to most. And I don't remember asking for your service, sir.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more.
O ty kurde, jaki gagatek, o kurde, jaki
According to you,
cwaniaczek
physicians are
uliczny.
scarce in this
Ale
part.
będzie trzeba mu naklepać za chwilę.
Why is that?
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you? I guess your fancy colleagues are too afraid of being stabbed in the back.
This part of town does have quite a reputation.
No co? Ja myślę, że to mógłby być jeden z tych, których
Look at me, for instance.
zabijemy.
I always
Bo
look
bardzo
like
mało
I'm
zabijam
living
ludzi,
life
a
and knocking him out.
gdzieś tam delikatnie by się przydała lekko więcej krwi.
The local bully everyone is afraid of, Joe.
There's no pride in roughing up poor bastards. But this is the only job I found. And it pays me
O,
A job?
ktoś mu
So
rozkazuje.
you're racketeering for someone else?
I got enlisted by the Wet Boot Boys, a gang from the docks. I'm their muscle for their dirty work.
Zostałem ich kafarem.
Most people don't become thugs when unemployed. This is a choice you made.
I don't care what you think, sir. I do what I have to do for my own reasons, and that's that.
I'm not sure Mr. Lewis would agree with your by all means necessary philosophy, sir.
Oh, do you really think he's the poor victim here? Barrett can be as sneaky as anyone. Long ago, I even called the bastard my best friend.
Dobra. Szybko dałem. Tutaj nic nie ma.
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of
To
mine.
może go nie zabijamy jeszcze?
Supposed to live around here.
Dorothy Crane. Yeah, I know her. One of the few good souls who dare to help the sick around here.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
Kitku, ale mogłabyś mi przeszkadzać?
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Dobra. Jaki w ogóle on miły jest, kulturalny dla wszystkich. Ktoś mieszka?
Hello, young man. I'm Dr. Reed, and I would like to ask you a few questions. May I enter, please?
Sorry, no, sir. My father does not like people entering our house, you see.
Your father is worried about you, boy. He asked me to look for you.
So my father actually worries about me then? Okay then.
Ale teraz siła perswazji wjechała, nie?
I'm Harry, by the way.
Siema, Harry Potter.
Pain and suffering in this world.
O, dzięki, akurat potrzebowałem paru rzeczy, które masz w domu. Harry Peterson. A, jego ojciec to był ten Joe Peterson.
Dreams are soaked with gloom.
Okej, czaję, czyli... No gościu jest jaki jest, no ale musi wykarmić młodego. Może uda nam się pomóc tej rodzince. Czy jeszcze jest, co bym mógł ukraść?
It's locked, all right.
It's locked. Ja zastanawiam się, co ja muszę zrobić. Czy jakieś umiejętności, czy coś poprawić. O, nowy przedmiot do wybrania, co to jest? Okej. A i myślałem, że jakieś leczenie. To po prostu notatki na temat wampirów. Pismo odmowy swojej pracy, o kurde. O, widzicie. Zjechaliśmy. Po drodze z góry, wiesz, chciałem zabić Parsona, czy tam Petersona. A tu się okazuje, że to był dobry człowiek, tylko no niestety go odrzucili, nie? Nie przyjęli go do roboty. Dobra, zagadajmy do młodego.
So, may I ask you a few questions?
I'm not bothered. What could be worse?
Dobra.
How do you feel?
I'm fine. I mean, it's not easy.
Speaking of which,
My father is an idiot who makes idiot things. That's all I have to say.
Widzicie, nie pochwala czynów ojca.
but you don't seem happy living in Whitechapel.
Why should I? I never wanted to come here in the first place. It was my father's decision. And look around you. Does this look like a nice place to live?
You have a roof over your head, a place to call home. Many people here are not as lucky, you know.
That's exactly what my father says. Harry, you should be grateful for what you've got. But I wasn't even consulted when we moved here.
If life here is so terrible for you, why don't you just leave this place? Have you ever spoken to your father about it?
I don't go outside. It terrifies me so. I went outside once without my father noticing and I saw terrible things. Bloody and frightening things.
So that's why you stay at home all day? For fear of the epidemic?
I'm not afraid of disease or death, Dr. Reed. It's the living I'm afraid of.
Okej. Delikatny chłopak jest, no dobra.
Your father and Mr. Lewis used to be good friends. What happened, Harry?
I was young then. I don't remember Mr. Lewis ever coming back again after my mother died. Or was it after my father started bullying him? I don't know.
Have you tried speaking to Mr. Lewis about it?
I don't go out often, but yes. And he scolded me and told me to leave him alone. I guess my father frightens him too much.
But you are not responsible for your father's actions.
Am I not? Dad always says that he joined that gang for my safety. So if I wasn't born, people wouldn't be worrying about Colossus Joe.
Dobra.
Would it ease tensions with your father if he got an honest job? Because he tried, you know.
I can't say. I'd be glad if he dropped his thuggish activities, but I'm not sure it would be enough.
Why is that?
Kurde, jaka melancholia, jaki tu smutek, jakie wszystko, nie?
Or it's this life.
Trudne czasy normalnie.
Like I can't find my place.
Ale błagam, nie chcę więcej gadać, chcę jakieś walki, coś.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from
Za dużo tu zgadania, zdecydowanie.
I'd like to know more about
70% gry to zgadanie.
I know her. She came here to examine me when I was very sick. She said I should go out more.
No, to na pewno ci pomoże.
Goodbye, young man.
Dobra, no.
Dreams are soaked with gloom.
Nara, młody. To co, teraz mogę... Ten już pół...
You again?
Czy mogę teraz coś więcej z nim pogadać?
Harry doesn't seem happy living in Whitechapel. Why did you make him come here?
I've always put my son's interests above everything else, whatever he may think. Our house is small but affordable. The walls are thin, but the door is
No niby
solid.
ta,
You
no.
really love your son, don't you, Mr. Peterson?
He's my pride and joy. Even if he hates me for the choices I make and pushes me buttons more than he should.
Do you have any regrets?
Only one. Not to have my beloved wife by my side. She died when Harry was little. My sweet Jane. She gave the boy confidence.
Since the criminal nature of your job means you could be arrested, are you not afraid of what would happen to your boy if you were?
No one will ever take my son away from me. If that ever occurred, I'd hunt the bastard down and rip off his head with my bare hands.
I właśnie dlatego powinniście stąd pojechać.
Why do you keep on working for the gang, Joe? You know it doesn't suit you.
It's true, I hate this job. And I know I made some bad choices, but I'm a wet boot boy now. And people...
You could leave tomorrow. Start another life in another town.
That's easy for you to say, Doctor. We are poor. My son's weak. And there's no way he'll endure another disappointment.
Dobra, no coś tam pogadane. Wystarczy. Jesus, ile tu jest gadania. Co tutaj jeszcze jest? Okay. Czy ja teraz mogę więcej pogadać?
You never lose your focus, do you?
O właśnie.
Joe Peterson. He's the... I've known Joe for years. I saw him box. What can you tell me about Mr. Peterson? Besides his behavior toward you, obviously.
Colossus Joe was a decent boxer, good one even. But after his wife passed away, we found him.
No dobra.
It's never easy to find a new path in life, especially after the loss of a loved one. But crime is certainly not the best option.
We've all had some rough times, ain't we? But most of us don't use our fists to see us through.
And no one has ever stood up to this thug.
Nobody would be fool enough to stand against the wet boot boy.
Mokremu kaloszowi? O kurde, potężny mokry kalosz.
What do you know of Harry Peterson? The boy seems so fragile. Not like...
Harry's a good boy, but he spends most of his...
What troubles him exactly?
Well, just...
Dobra. Coś tu jeszcze mogę pogadać? Nie.
Goodbye for now.
O Jezus, i co, jest znowu do tego? Zwariuję zaraz z tym
You
gadaniem.
again.
O, myślałem, że odblokowałem, a tu jednak nie.
Goodbye, Mr.
O, a to kto to? O kurde, ksiądz. Siema.
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whitaker is always
Whittaker.
happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed.
A scientist?
What do you mean when you say that I am...
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences. And most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
I am. What do you mean?
All
Aha, to już gadałem.
Well,
as a doctor, you must be...
what do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own eyes, I...
Really? And what would be your answer to this biblical threat?
We must fight the disease before this legion outnumbers us. But not with scalpels and microscopes.
What is left then?
Cleansing fire.
Co on pieprzy?
What do you mean?
Nie, to już gadałem, to już gadałem. Kurde. Aha, bo tu już była taka opcja. No i spieprzyłem.
Good evening.
It's...
O.
Tell me, Tobias, what exactly is your plan?
Bo widać, można bardzo szybko dojść do tego, żeby użyć perswazji i się dowiedzieć to, co potrzebne.
Science?
See, doctor?
Okej, czyli jeszcze raz
Tell me,
musimy.
See?
O kurde, spieprzyłem.
Have you any friends?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my...
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will...
Dobra, wystarczy, bo kolejny odcinek będzie samego gadania,
Do you
naprawdę.
know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that nurse Crane you mentioned.
A, zaraz.
Do you know-
Kurde.
Why do you hate Nurse?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in her
No
country.
proszę.
That's what happens when you let a woman get involved.
A ona nie wyglądała właśnie jak Brytyjka, tylko jak taka szwabka troszkę.
So you're not exactly.
Nuns should be the only wit.
Dobra, wystarczy.
I have heard enough.
Jeszcze muszę tu dojść jakoś do tego miejsca. To kto to jest? O proszę, witam. Kim ty żeś jest?
Don't be shy, handsome. What can Christina do for you?
I'm not
What
looking for.
can Christina do for
But I'd like
you?
to ask you a few questions. If I
Cóż
may.
to za
I'm a
akcent?
Dr. Reed.
All right then, but be quick, though I usually get paid when I open my mouth.
Christina Popa.
Christina, have you been examined? The epidemic is spreading fast.
I don't like doctors or hospitals, but I don't like you.
Considering your line of work, I assure you it is only a matter of time before you have health issues.
If it is going to happen, it will happen. Right now.
You can put your own life in danger, that's your decision. But what about...
And you think that would worry me? If you knew the men I deal with, their health would not be what you'd worry about.
To prawda.
Tell me about yourself.
Are you joking with me? People don't usually...
I have no interest in your work. I am, however, curious as to what...
Jak mnie nie interesuje? Halo, Vampyr. No co ty?
Short story. The war, exile, and England. This country is not especially welcoming. I've been refused many jobs because of where I am from.
Skąd ona
I had
jest?
few options left.
I always thought I was the master of my own fate. But now I know we don't always have control over our lives. I don't judge you.
You know, this money is not only for me. I have good reasons to need this money quickly, but it is not your concern, Doctor.
Tell me.
Are you...
I have... I always...
You know...
Kurczę, myślałem, że była jeszcze jakaś inna opcja.
Do you know...
I don't know her, but I know her name is Dorothea Crasionescu. She came from
Crasionescu,
Romania,
Romania.
like me and many others.
You seem to
O,
Dorothea
też jest
helps the
Rumunka.
sick people of Whitechapel.
To może będzie
Everyone should
wampirzyca.
respect that.
Goodbye.
Okej, Rumunka. To jest kolejny... Ja pierdzielę, symulator rozmów 2, nie wierzę.
Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry,
Jeszcze
I'm
jakiś
new.
dziennikarz mi się trafił.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent?
There's a war going on. People
I served in France. Our top...
Sir, streets are a battlefield too. An invisible and untold war is going on, and it must be stopped.
Have you...
I've had to run and hide more than once from French...
That science is unable to explain the facts doesn't mean there is no rational explanation.
I confess, I share your point of view, Doctor.
Dobra, cieszę się, że się rozumiemy i
What is a
zgadzamy.
journalist doing in this borough?
Ale bardzo by mnie ucieszyło, jakbym już nie musiał więcej gadać.
To inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
That's quite honorable of you. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
No dobra, i najważniejsze.
Christina Popper claims she sells her body because she can't find any other work. Do you believe her?
Of course I do. Her story is exactly what I want my readers to understand. We live in an intolerant and divided nation.
Do you think things will ever change, Mr. Darby?
I believe the situation can only improve. And now that women can vote, I'm convinced things will change.
Okej. Tu nie mam wskazówek. No dobra.
Goodbye,
Wystarczy.
Mr.
Wystarczy. Już nie chcę mi się z nikim gadać. Gdzie teraz jestem? Tu. Dobra, to wracam tu z powrotem. Zbadaj działania, no dobra. Czy coś tu się dzieje ciekawego? Gdzie to mam szukać? O! Gdzie ja jestem? Ciekawe. Zjemy sobie szczura. Szczura bydlaka, zjemy sobie jeszcze jednego, bo przyda nam się trochę krwi.
This is despicable.
Dobra, wcinaj ostatniego.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
Dobra, idziemy za krwią. Co to jest? Co tu się dzieje? Dead inside. Wejdźmy do środka, trzeba oczyścić tę kamienicę. Może akurat dowiemy się tutaj, jakieś notatki będą na temat jakiejś migreny, bólu głowy albo jakiejś innej, nie wiem, choroby. Bo też na tym zależy. Okej, mnóstwo krwi. Papierośnica. Że tu jest ciekawego? No jest pełno trupów, no. Papierośnica, mnóstwo papierośnic. No ale coś chyba coś zabiło te osoby. Oho. Tu coś może będzie. Odblokowano kryjówkę. Kryjóweczkę sobie znalazłem, no świetnie. W sumie mam 1200 punktów. Pewnie będzie wyjście. Bo jak żeby inaczej, uzupełni wszystko. I tutaj też jest wyjście? Słuchajcie, jak to wygląda. Dobra, 1200 punktów to akurat 1120. Akurat to moglibyśmy coś tutaj lekko ulepszyć. Może to wytrzymałość bym dał sobie na wyższy poziom. Dobra. No troszeczkę tego życia mało mieliśmy. Jak ten jego pysk wygląda. Ma takie czerwone, nafurane oczy. To jest jakaś masakra. O! Ty, ktoś zginął. Właśnie, i to jest ciekawe. Wyssano krew. Ciekawe. Widzicie, no mamy tutaj całą dzielnicę. Nie wszystkich jeszcze poznałem. Ale tutaj jakiegoś Kadogana, Batesa, już ktoś go zabił. Praktycznie wszyscy chorują. Zmęczenie. Migrena, anemia. Jest znany. No i kurczę, to jest to. Jak pójdę spać, to coś się złego może wydarzyć. Dlatego lepiej nie śpieszyć się z tym spaniem. Bo jak potem giną ludzie, to pewnie mniej informacji mogę się dowiedzieć i skorzystać też na punktach doświadczenia, wysysając krew. Bo może się okaże, że to będzie postać, która może dać nam troszeczkę punkcików. Okej. Gdzie my jesteśmy? Tutaj.
Good evening.
Cóż się dowiem więcej? Nie.
Goodbye, Miss
Żegnam. Nie, kurde, nie chciałem z nim gadać, halo.
Goodbye, Miss Swan.
Co to idzie?
Swanborough cordial can be the answer to all your
Co to
problems.
jest?
Benjamin.
As long
Can
as
I
you
help
have
you?
the money.
I'm afraid not, Mr.
What is it, Benjamin? It was the war, wasn't it? Your nerves are shot, aren't they? I need some answers, Private. From one...
The doctors called me a liar, a coward.
When science fails you, this elixir will
Yes.
faith again.
Sounds like shell shock. I've seen a few cases like yours. This is nothing you should be ashamed of, Benjamin.
I'm not ashamed. I just need my pills. Peace and quiet, that's all.
No dobra, czy jestem w stanie mu jakoś...
Whatever the...
I swear I didn't want to hit him. It's just that I'm sick in the head, you see, and the boy he just framed me like...
Dobra, dobra, rozumiem. Ale nie mam jak go wyleczyć.
You don't seem well, Benjamin. Do you need
I
a...
always feel ill, sir.
I will see.
Dobra, no nie mam jak go na razie
A
tutaj
gun?
Science fails you. This elixir will
wyleczyć.
give you faith again.
Kurde, on jest gdzieś tam. Ale jak ja to mam? A muszę go jakoś podsłuchać, czy jak to jest? Czym to się robiło? Czym tu się robiło V? Nie. Kurde, nie wiem. Twórcy, dźwięk, język, napisy, rozgrywka. Rusz myszy. Układ przycisków. A jakbym poprosił o układ może klawiatury, halo? Tu jest. Bieg. Chodzenie zablokuj, akcja, ugryzienie, strzela, umiejętności, użyj pierwszego przedmiotu ostatecznie. Okej. Zmysły V. Dialog hipnotyzuj Q. EFR. QEFR. O! Teraz nagle się pojawiło, kiedy ja nawet nic nie kliknąłem. A mnie wystarczyło go tylko zaobserwować. Jest i Dorothy. Jest i Rumunka.
A strange man was at the door with a pass for our medical facility. I refused him entry.
Darius, how could you know he didn't need our help?
I to nie wyraz
His clothes
twarzy.
were finely tailored to be for Whitechapel.
Perhaps just a friend of that stray poet who is always about.
Richard Nethercott? No, not of the same cloth, this man. I suspect some machination from that journalist.
Clayton Darby. Is he still asking questions?
Yes. I saw him drifting around St. Mary's Church. I swear he is tracking me just downwind.
I cannot enter. I must talk to that journalist or the poet. They must know about Darius. Nearby the church they just mentioned.
No ale dopiero co gadałem z nimi, no halo. O rety, dobra, słuchajcie. Bo ten odcinek się bardzo przeciąga. Przez to, że... I znowu się tu szarpią. O, jest Clayton. Ej, czekaj. Czekaj, bo mamy do pogadania.
Good evening, Doctor.
I heard you're investigating an underground medical dispensary in Whitechapel. What do you know about it?
Not much, I'm afraid. They are wary of strangers, and I'm not really an acquaintance of theirs. Why do you care?
I'm afraid one of the nurses from the Pembroke Hospital may be involved with unsavory activities.
Ah, could it be Dorothy Crane?
Without a doubt, you are a damn fine journalist, Mr. Darby. What do you know of
Jak mu podlizał tylko po to, żeby się coś więcej dowiedzieć,
I
nie?
don't know much about the man. He's very cautious. Never goes out. Doesn't seem to have any friends or family.
Czyż ona niby taka dobra?
He never goes out.
No. A few days ago, he unexpectedly did. I followed him, but it was just a ruse to keep me away from his house.
Really? How do you know?
He went to the nearest mailbox, but just before posting his letter, he ripped it up and threw it away.
He has no relatives at all.
Czyli coś czuję, że zaraz
Except
się
for that
dowiemy.
strange man, a poet named Richard Nethercott, who sometimes comes by. Darius would never let him in.
Where can I find this Mr. Nethercott?
He spends most of his time lurking around Whitechapel, talking to himself or declaring verses. These days, you can usually find...
Okej. Coś tu jeszcze wiemy? Nie, nic nie wiemy.
Goodbye, Mr.
Gość jest za kościołem. Ze spokojnie tu. Gdzie są tu jakieś potwory, wilkołaki i tak dalej? O. O kurde, 3. Dobra, dobra, dobra. Wiem, że chciałem fajnie się pobawić, ale żartowałem jednak z tą ilością. Dobra. Bierzemy sobie składniczki. Tu ktoś leży. Okej, jakiś trupek. Znajdź skrzynkę pocztową i list. Okej, znajdź mieszkańców Whitechapel. No to praktycznie z większością rozmawiałem. To może została mi... jedna, dwie osoby? Znajdź Richarda w okolicy. Na cmentarzu się boka? O, jest. Siema, Richie.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak.
Really?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
May I ask you a few questions about...
Extraordinary part of town, is it not? I'll be glad.
What can you tell me about an old man called Darius?
Darius Petrescu? Yes, I know him. At first I thought he was only a small...
Petrescu też to będzie Rumon. Czyli ogólnie to jest jakaś taka kolonia rumuńska.
Not interested in your talent?
Darius is an old political activist who takes delight in printing tracts and lampoons. Those communist activities only require mediocre writing skills.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane.
Dorothy Crane. Oh, I love the name. The Crane of Whitechapel. Sounds very mysterious. But sort...
Nikt o niej nie słyszał, no ciekawe.
May I...
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet...
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I?
If you...
Thank you, Doctor. But we
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course,
Nie, no ile tu jest gadania, no nie wytrzymam, no to jest po prostu taki fajny pomysł z taką dobrą grą o wampirach, jakichś potworach i tego typu rzeczach, doprowadzona do tylko jednego ciągłego gadania. No jak można spieprzyć gierkę?
Yes. The enjoyable silence of the grave. You have a unique perspective on the situation, I must admit.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them.
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care.
If some misfortune came upon you...
Well, you, for a start, my...
Dobra, ten jak się podlizał w ogóle.
Tell me,
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to...
do you not think it a little...
On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much. And that's the beauty of it.
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But
And have you ever tried to learn more about her?
maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
Mhm.
Tell me, in what way it's...
The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the added hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and
Vivid, of course, yes.
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what...
Dobra, wystarczy tego na
I'll
dzisiaj.
leave you alone.
Masakra, ile tu jest gadania. Słuchajcie, wiem, to jest ciężkie do oglądania. Mi ciężko się w to gra. Myślałem, że ta gra jest bardziej dynamiczna i więcej rzeczy ma miejsce, oczywiście jeśli chodzi o walkę i kurczę poznawanie tych wszystkich historii, tych wampirzy, wilkołaków, potworów. Ale tu jest tyle gadania, że po prostu ta gra no, jest kurde strasznie monotonna. W każdym razie dziękuję wam za uwagę i zapraszam na kolejnego odcinka. Mam nadzieję, że w kolejnym już będzie się coraz więcej działo. Pa, pa, na razie.